Hello, and welcome to the From the Top interview series. I'm here today with Fiona Jameson, CEO of Spring International. Fiona, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Excellent. So maybe you could start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Spring International. We are a custom research and people analytics firm. We're based just outside of Philadelphia, and we've been in business for the last 32 years. So we've been around a while.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good lifespan for sure.
Yep.
So maybe you could share a little bit about your journey to becoming CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm what you probably call an accidental CEO. It's not something I set out to do. When I moved to the United States back in 2000, I was looking for a research position, ended up in a firm that really wasn't my cup of tea.
Hmm.
I ultimately found this organization and joined as a research associate. The CEO at the time wasn't really looking to hire or expand necessarily. So I sort of convinced him to hire me. And he was very much a just a very driven individual. He was an incredible founder of the business, and he was basically a mentor for me throughout, the first 10 years of my career with him. When he ultimately decided he was going to retire, he hit that point. He hadn't really made a solid decision about what he was going to do with the company. And I loved what I do. I'm passionate about it, and I didn't want my job to disappear. I didn't want him to sell it to someone else. I didn't want him to wind the company down. So we had a conversation about, what's next. And I suggested that he give the company to me. He said, I'm not just going to give it to you.
Good
And
try, though.
yeah, well, you gotta shoot your shot. So we talked about what that might look like over a period of time, and we did the transition over a 5-year period.
Hmm.
And then he rode off into the sunset and now lives in Arizona. And I've been CEO for the last 7 years and
Nice.
still love what I do.
Yeah. How was that transition? You said it was a 5-year period. How did that go? Did you find it smooth? Any surprises or challenges there with that?
I think the toughest thing when you're going to have a succession plan is in our kind of business where we're professional services is, are we going to lose clients? Are we going to, because he was the founder and many people had started working with us because of him. In our
Right,
world, they buy you, right? They buy the
right,
person.
right.
So I was sort of concerned, would I be able to build those relationships? But I think because we did it over a 5-year period, I was able to shadow him on certain projects, got to know his clients, um, and we really were able to make it a very seamless transition. We didn't lose any clients in the process, which I feel like is a signal that we did it okay. But it
Definitely.
also enabled me to learn things from him, about how he ran the company, what his goals had been.
Hmm.
We're a little different. Like I obviously had a slightly different growth trajectory because I have different experience, but having that period of time, I think really helped it to be smooth. I think if we would have tried to do it in a year, it
Right,
probably wouldn't have been as successful.
right. No,
We
that
have,
makes a lot of sense. I think that was very smart to take the 5 years
Mhm.
to do that. I work with a lot of my clients on their succession planning and transition, and you need a longer time horizon than I think sometimes you anticipate. So it's good that you did that.
Yeah.
Um, So, any misconceptions about either, and you could take this in the direction you'd like, about your role as a CEO, about what it's like to be a CEO in a services business or running a services company? What do you think there?
I think when you're a business owner and a CEO, you sort of think, oh, I'm going to have a ton of flexibility. I'm going to be able to make my own decisions. Um, but it can be lonely at the top.
Mm,
Having a people who you consider your peers and your mentors around you who are outside of the organization is extremely valuable. Um, and I think I probably sleep a lot less because, once you're
yeah,
responsible for other people's salaries as well as your own,
right.
that's just a higher level of stress that I think comes with that job. So
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said mentors outside the organization. That's great. And this is something I tell my clients as an advisor to CEOs and business owners. I say I act like your non-equity partner, right? I'm there for you to have that sounding board, to have somebody to hold you accountable because there's no one, above you in the organization. And yeah, I think there's so much value in that. And I actually think accountability is the number one most effective lever to getting things done. If
Mhm.
you're accountable, then that's what makes execution happen both through your own organization and for yourself. So love
And I
that.
knew I'd never been a CEO before. So I didn't
Mhm.
know what that meant. I mean, obviously I'd seen him do it and but it's different when suddenly it's on your plate and you're making all those decisions yourself. So
Right,
I definitely tried to build a group of people who were my go-to,
right. Well,
go-to.
and I love what you said there too. Like I know when I was running my consulting firm, you feel a lot of responsibility to the people that work for you
Mhm.
to make sure they have a job,
Mhm.
right? And so I know you're a good CEO if you're taking that
That
stance.
keeps me up at night. Yeah.
Yes, well yeah, that means you're doing what you're supposed to. So speaking of being up at night, any thoughts on how to keep a work-life balance? And sometimes I know lately I've been saying this, it's not so much harmony or balance as it is harmony
Mhm.
between your work and your life. Do you have any rituals or habits, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, that's absolutely. I would agree with that. It's not about work-life balance for me. It's about work-life harmony, which to me means, I focus where I need to focus at that point in time. So, when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at home, I try to be as home as much as possible. When I'm taking, care of my parents, I try to be as present with them as I can. And sometimes you have to let things go, right? It's about prioritization. And I think the thing that's hardest for me and I think for a lot of women in senior roles is taking time for yourself. I
Mm,
think, our own mental health, the healthier I am, the more productive I am, the better the company does. So I think in the last couple of years, that's something that I've tried to prioritize a little bit more is when's my time to whether
absolutely.
that's to just not think about work or, just get outside.
Yeah. I think you said something there that's so important. I want to highlight it again because you said when you're at work, you focus on work. When you're not at work, you focus away from work and with your family or whatever that is. I think I know I've seen this in my colleagues and my clients and even in myself years ago. Uh, you're kind of half in both all the time, and that's not a good way to go. When you're on vacation, push the calls, right? Don't take the call while you're on vacation. Like be with your family and be all the way in there. And I think ultimately you end up way better off
Oh yeah.
because they're both not diluted, they're both fully attention and it's way more efficient.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's holding yourself accountable to that as well. And I think, for me, when I go home, I have some family time and then, I do get back on the computer at night. But what I try to do is delay all my emails so that they don't go out at night, that they go out the following morning, so that I'm not I'm trying to not intentionally destroy my team's peace and quiet too. Now, that's not can't always be the case, right? Because we have
Yeah.
emergencies and client needs, but where possible, I try to not have the way I work affect how others work.
Yeah.
So
That's huge too. We all know those managers and executives that send the email at 9 p.m. telling you to be on a 9 a.m.
right,
morning
exactly.
meeting. It's like well,
I'm trying to
that's
be
not good.
conscious of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Great, excellent stuff there. Really good advice as well. In the sort of constantly evolving world of services consulting, and also, the human capital space is, constantly evolving. How do you stay on top of that and stay up with trends and what's going on and keep your business doing the same?
Yeah, so the space or the knowledge area that we work in is employee engagement, employee and labor relations, anything to do with employee listening and people analytics. So for me, staying up to date with that is a combination of things. I attend conferences.
Mhm.
I belong to certain think tanks where we're learning the latest academic research. I read articles, I listen to podcasts. I try to stay up to date by, following certain thought leaders and things in the industry. And where possible, I try to engage our clients in that as well. So if I find something, I'll share it with my team. If I find something, I might share it with a client. I think of myself as sort of a sponge for best practices and knowledge. And the more I can capture that knowledge and then share it in a very critical, timely way with clients, that's the value I can bring to them because they probably don't have the time to attend conferences, read papers, participate in academic think tanks. So if I can be that conduit for them to continue to learn and we would say like level up, like we're trying to
Mhm.
help clients go from maybe doing ad hoc engagement surveys every other year to how do you get to predictive analytics so you can make real-time people decisions? And so how can I get them along that maturity model, and knowledge sharing and best practice sharing is a great way to do that with them.
Absolutely. And I think you're touching on there. Sometimes when we think about being a thought leader and being up on the latest, we think we have to be the font of that, right? We have to be the one coming up, but you don't, right? And something that really opened my eyes years ago is this idea of the journalist, right? Like collecting that information and
Mhm.
sharing it, being a conduit of knowledge, whether it comes from you or it comes from another source, knowing that you're providing that extra value to your clients, to your team, and you can put your own spin on it too. You can pass that through your own filter and say, here's everything I'm hearing. Here's what I think resonates and makes
Mhm.
sense. And here's my thoughts. So I love that. And I think that opens up, takes the pressure off because you're not like, I don't have to invent everything,
Mhm.
you know?
Oh yeah, and I think that I'm lucky enough to belong to some networks where there's some incredible thought leaders who this is what they do all day is they learn and they generate knowledge. We are capturing data all day long. We have thousands and thousands of data points coming into our system that we're learning from as well. So we have the
Right.
ability to share with our clients what we're learning. But I always think that I think that this the more educated you get, the less you realize you know.
Mm,
Right. So the
mhm.
more you know, the less you know. And I think, I feel like we know a lot about this very small area that we serve our clients on. And I'm very aware that there is a whole body of knowledge that I can still pull from that is above and beyond what we have access to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So to the extent you feel comfortable, can you share any plans for your business, what you're looking forward to, say, in the next year or so?
So we have a 5-year plan for growth, as I'm sure most small businesses do. We are looking to go deeper into some of the industries where we've got a lot of clients, and get a little bit more in touch with some of the industry associations. We're also looking to expand into some new markets. The interesting thing about the work that we do is it's sort of industry agnostic.
Mhm.
Any company that's got employees probably has employee and people issues, right?
Right.
So we're somewhat industry agnostic. Now, we work mostly in retail, manufacturing, logistics, and healthcare, but we're looking to expand into some additional industry verticals as well. We have some biotech clients, food service clients, and I think, you know, those are areas of growth and opportunity for us. And then in addition to that, we have our own reporting platform that our clients leverage to access their data. Our other part of our strategy is to continue to invest in that, find, upgrade it, add features as they get developed, or as they get requested by clients. So I think investment internally and then
Mhm.
expansion externally is probably the key part of our strategy.
Great. Yeah, I love it. Um, with the 5 year plan, that's a good time horizon.
Mhm.
And then I would imagine you're really focused on the shorter term things with the 5 year kind of serving as the kind
Guide.
of
Right.
lighthouse. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Awesome. That's great. So this is my question I always ask everyone. If you could wave a magic wand over one area of your business and have any result magically happen, what would that area be and why?
That's a great question. And I'd probably answer it in two ways. I think the one is I'd love to invest more in my people, right? It is a smaller business. It's always hard to know when to hire. Um, and I think being slow to hire for us is very smart and hiring people who are passionate about the stuff that we do. So I think if I could just magically wave a wand and duplicate my team,
Mm,
um, I think that would be one wish. And the other is that we're able to leverage a lot of these AI tools and things into our business to help make us and our clients more efficient. We're already finding ways to leverage that in the analytics that we do, um, in some of our marketing, in some of our creation of documents and things. So I would love to be able to say yes, anything that can make us more efficient, that leverages technology, I think, in a critical, thoughtful way.
hmm.
Um, would be another area that I'd like that magic wand to
Yeah.
help me with. I'm sort of a bit of a I'm not great with technology. My tech team and my team will tell you, like, if you want, don't let Fiona touch it. And I own that. I've very
That's good.
cleverly, I think, hired people a lot smarter than I am, especially when it comes to technology. But I recognize its power. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
so, to be able to give them more of the tools that they use would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, you don't have to be great at building it or all that, but knowing the power, I think, is huge.
Mhm.
And I really love too that you said duplicate your team. I
Mhm.
think that shows that you've done a good job in hiring so far, and that the team you have is you just want to duplicate them because they're so great. I
I
mean,
just want more of them. And I think if they each had their own sort of mini me, then they could, their work-life harmony would be better too. So I think,
absolutely.
the mental health of all of us would get better if we all had a mini me who could back us up.
Right, absolutely. Well, definitely strategies to do stuff like that. So we'll just kind of close out with the final question, which is any advice you can offer to someone who, with your journey, right, having kind of come up in the business to the CEO level, maybe something along that lines, like someone who's in a business and knows, boy, someday I'd like to lead here, whether it's CEO level or just executive level. Any advice?
I think I would say ask, speak up,
Mm,
have a voice. I was sitting there thinking about, what's going to happen with this business? What if it disappears? What if I have to go and get a job somewhere else? What if I have to work for someone else? And I don't know what happened the day I decided to ask, but the fact that I spoke up and it opened up a dialogue and we had a conversation about it and then we followed up, that would never have happened if I hadn't spoken up. And I could be working for someone else now and not nearly as happy as I am now. So I think the advice I would give people would be just ask. What's the worst they can say is no, right?
right.
And ask for what you want. And if you love it, do more of what you love, right? So, and get the system in place in order to allow you to do that. So speak up, be heard, and don't be afraid to go for what you want. Um, you've got to have some, I think, passion or chops. And then the other piece of advice I would say is hire slowly and hire
Mm.
people who are smarter than you are.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. That's great advice. I find a lot of leaders, a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a similar answer with this question, and it is about going for it, not letting your fear be that barrier, whether it's asking, as you said, or starting something new, trying out something new. Just go for it. I love the idea that we regret more the things we don't do
Mhm.
than things we do.
Yep.
I try to
And
I try to
somebody
keep that.
said to me recently, they said, overthinking is the enemy of action, which I think is actually very accurate. I don't know who said it. I should probably be quoting someone, but I love that thought that if you overthink something and overthink something, you're probably never going to do it. So just,
Mhm.
it's not to say go, don't think about anything, but
Right.
I think if you've been thinking about it a lot, just do it. And
Yeah.
you know,
It's about the calculated risks, not the frivolous ones, right? But
exactly. Yeah.
don't let your fear or your overanalyzing stop you. I
Well,
love
and
it.
I had imposter syndrome for a long time, right?
Mhm.
About like, well, why I couldn't be a CEO. I don't know anything about it. No one's ever going to listen to me. This business will fail if I take, I mean, my inner voice was very negative. So getting over that and being like, ah, what have I got to lose?
Absolutely.
And now
Yeah,
look at us.
absolutely. And now look, you're the CEO. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Fiona. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate your candor and sharing all that with us. Just thank you so much for appearing on the show with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a joy.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, I thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.